Why do you keep breaking promises to yourself? You know what needs to change. You know you should wake up earlier. You know you should train, study, build, focus. You know the habits that would improve your life. And yet, you don't follow through. Not because you're stupid, not because you lack information, but because you've been conditioned to choose comfort over command. Look around you. Hungry? Open an app. Bored? Stream something. Lonely? Scroll. Stressed? Distract yourself. Everything is instant. Everything is soft. Everything is designed to remove friction from your life. And while life gets easier, you get weaker, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. 400 years ago, a man understood this problem long before smartphones and streaming existed. His name was Miyamoto Musashi. He fought 61 duels and never lost, not because he was the strongest, not because he was the fastest, because he built a system of discipline that could not be shaken. He understood that the real battle is not fought with a sword. It is fought between what you want to do and what you should do, between comfort and growth, between pleasure and purpose. And most people lose that battle before 8 a.m. Let me tell you about someone who was losing it every day. Jack was 25 years old. If you passed him on the street, you wouldn't look twice. Overweight, tired eyes, average clothes. He worked as a waiter in downtown Seattle, woke up late, worked his shift, came home, played video games until 2 a.m., slept, repeated. But inside, something was rotting. He watched his old friends move forward, college, tech jobs, startups, promotions, and he stayed where he was, carrying plates, making excuses. He wanted to change. That's the dangerous part. He wanted to. He'd stand in front of the mirror and say, "Tomorrow I'll start." Tomorrow he'd wake up tired, hit snooze, order takeout, tell himself he'd start next week. It wasn't lack of time. It wasn't lack of knowledge. It was lack of discipline. He lived on autopilot, and autopilot was comfortable. Until one Tuesday night, the restaurant was nearly empty when a man walked in. Mid-30s, calm presence, gray suit, expensive watch, not flashy, just controlled. He ordered black coffee. Jack made small talk like he always did. "What do you do?" "I own a software company." Something tightened in Jack's chest, envy mixed with curiosity. "How did you get there?" The man studied him for a second before answering. "Discipline." Jack almost laughed. That word again. But the man didn't smile. "Most people think success comes from talent or luck. It doesn't. It comes from consistency under discomfort." His name was Naoki, and that night he introduced Jack to a different way of living. "Modern society hates discipline," Naoki said. "It rewards comfort, but comfort weakens you. Strength only comes from voluntary hardship." He explained that warriors were not forged in ease. They were forged in resistance. "You don't need motivation," Naoki said. "You need a system." Then he laid out the first rule. Get up without negotiation. When your alarm rings, you stand up. No debate, no snooze, no emotional conversation. Jack felt exposed. That was the first battle he lost every single day. "Second," Naoki continued, "move without emotion. You act whether you feel like it or not." That hit harder. Jack had been waiting to feel inspired. Third, train when you don't want to. Anyone can work when motivated. Warriors train in the rain. The words weren't loud, they were steady. Naoki leaned in slightly. "You think your problem is time. It's not. Your problem is that you negotiate with yourself." That sentence stayed with Jack. He negotiated everything. 5 more minutes, 1 more episode, 1 more day. Naoki wasn't preaching motivation. He was describing command. "There's a phrase written by Musashi," he said. "Think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world." Jack frowned. It means your ego is noise. Your emotions are noise. When you obsess over how you feel, you lose clarity. That was Jack's life. Noise, doubt, excuses, self-pity, temporary motivation, then collapse. Naoki finished his coffee. Let me ask you something, he said calmly. Are you tired of being weak? Jack didn't answer, but his silence said yes. Then stop waiting to feel ready. That night, before leaving, Naoki made him an offer. I'll give you a chance to work for me, but you have to prove you can follow discipline first. Jack's heart raced. Lose 8 kilos in 2 months, follow the system, no excuses. It sounded brutal, but it was clear, and clarity is rare. When Naoki left, Jack stood alone in the restaurant holding a business card. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about tomorrow. He was thinking about the next action. When he got home, he didn't turn on the console. He didn't open YouTube. He set his alarm for 5 a.m., and when it rang the next morning, every instinct told him to stay in bed. But something was different. He remembered the first rule: get up without negotiation. He stood up. It wasn't heroic, it wasn't cinematic, it was quiet. But it was the first battle he won. That run at 5 a.m. was miserable. Cold air, heavy legs, self-doubt screaming. But he moved without emotion. He trained when he didn't want to. And something subtle began to shift, not just in his body, in his identity. He wasn't becoming strong yet. He was becoming disciplined. And discipline is the soil strength grows from. This wasn't about losing weight, it was about removing weakness. In the next part, you'll see how the full samurai system reshaped Jack's mind, how discipline stopped being a challenge and became his default state, and why most people collapse after 3 days while a warrior becomes consistent for life. The first week was brutal, not dramatic, not cinematic, just uncomfortable. Jack's body hurt. His sleep schedule was wrecked. His cravings screamed at him. Every morning felt like friction. Every evening felt like temptation. The old version of him kept whispering, "This isn't sustainable. You deserve a break, just skip today." But Naoki had warned him, the moment you negotiate with weakness, weakness wins. So Jack followed the rules exactly. Wake up without negotiation. Move without emotion. Train when you don't want to. And something important happened during week 2. The discomfort didn't disappear, but the panic around it did. He started realizing something most people never understand. Pain is not the enemy. Avoidance is. Naoki sent him weekly emails expanding the system. Discipline isn't about punishment, one message read. It's about structure. You don't need motivation when structure carries you. That's where most people fail. They rely on emotion. When they feel good, they act. When they don't, they collapse. But emotion is unstable. It changes hourly. Structure doesn't. The fourth discipline Naoki introduced was eliminate the unnecessary. Jack looked around his apartment and saw clutter everywhere. Game consoles, junk food wrappers, notifications buzzing every few minutes. Distraction had been his lifestyle, so he simplified, deleted social media, unplugged the console, cleaned his apartment, set specific hours for study and training. It felt extreme, but clarity feels extreme to someone used to chaos. Within 3 weeks, something else changed. His focus sharpened. When he studied programming at night, he wasn't multitasking anymore. No second screen, no scrolling, no background noise. He protected his attention like a fortress. That was discipline number 6. Your attention is your most valuable asset. If you don't guard it, someone else will use it. Modern life runs on stealing focus, notifications, endless feeds, algorithmic hooks. Jack realized he had never been fully present in years. Now he was. The fifth discipline was harder. Sit with the pain. When hunger hit from the diet, he didn't distract himself. When muscle soreness burned, he didn't complain. When self-doubt crept in, he didn't drown it in entertainment. He sat with it. And he noticed something subtle. Pain peaks, then it passes, but when you run from it, it chases you. Most people are controlled by discomfort. Warriors study it. By the end of the first month, Jack hadn't transformed physically in a dramatic way. But mentally, he was different. He wasn't waiting to feel ready anymore. He was acting regardless. And that shift changed everything. 2 months in, he stepped on the scale, 10 kilos down. He had surpassed the goal. But more important than the number was what he understood. He wasn't proud in the loud way. He was steady. When he emailed Naoki the results, the reply came quickly. "Congratulations, you're hired. Monday, 9 a.m. Jack walked into Naoki's office feeling small but grounded. He started at the lowest position, junior assistant, fetching coffee, organizing documents, running errands. Old Jack would have resented it. New Jack didn't care. He understood something now. Position doesn't matter. Process does. He applied the same rules at work. Arrive early. Do difficult tasks first. Don't complain. Don't seek praise. Just execute. When projects were overwhelming, he broke them down into single actions. When he felt tired, he moved without emotion. When colleagues slacked off, he stayed the course. The seventh discipline became critical. Live without needing approval. Jack stopped looking around to see who noticed his effort. He stopped posting progress. He stopped talking about goals. He simply worked. There's something powerful about silent consistency. Within 6 months, he was promoted. Not because he demanded it, because his output made it inevitable. 1 year later, another promotion. But here's the key. He didn't feel dramatically different. He felt stable. Discipline had stopped being an effort. It had become identity. That's the turning point most people never reach. At first, discipline feels forced, then it feels structured. Eventually, it feels natural, but only if you persist beyond the emotional resistance phase. Naoki explained it simply. Most people fail in the first 3 days because they expect discipline to feel good. It doesn't. It feels neutral. It feels repetitive. It feels boring. And boredom is where weak habits die. Jack learned something deeper too. He had spent years thinking he lacked motivation. In reality, he lacked command. Command over his morning, command over his attention, command over his impulses. Once command returned, clarity followed. The 8th and final discipline was this: stay the course no matter what. That's the one that separates transformation from relapse, because change doesn't move in a straight line. There were weeks when progress slowed. There were days when work felt pointless. There were moments when old habits tried to resurface, but he didn't negotiate. He stayed. 3 years later, he was leading teams. 5 years later, he was director. 10 years later, Naoki called him into the office. "I want you as a partner." Jack didn't see that moment as luck. He saw it as accumulated discipline. 10 years of mornings without negotiation, 10 years of action without emotional permission, 10 years of sitting with discomfort instead of escaping it. And here's what matters for you. Jack wasn't gifted. He wasn't uniquely talented. He didn't have extraordinary connections. He had structure. And structure, applied daily, compounds. In the final part, you'll understand why discipline creates something more powerful than happiness. How strength becomes peace, and why most people choose comfort even when they know it's costing them everything. 10 years after that Tuesday night, Jack stood in Naoki's office as a different man. Not louder, not arrogant, not dramatic, stronger. And strength is quiet. When Naoki offered him partnership in the company, Jack didn't feel shock. He felt confirmation. Not because he expected a reward, because he understood the equation. Daily discipline multiplied over years equals irreversible change. That's the part most people refuse to accept. They want intensity. They need consistency. Modern culture sells happiness as the ultimate goal. Feel good, stay comfortable, avoid stress, remove friction. But comfort is fragile. Strength is durable. Happiness is an emotion. It fluctuates. Strength is a capacity. It endures. When you build strength, you don't need perfect conditions. You don't need constant praise. You don't need to feel inspired. You operate regardless. That's what Musashi understood. Miyamoto Musashi wrote in the Book of Five Rings that discipline sharpens perception. When ego fades, clarity increases. Most people are not defeated by external obstacles. They are defeated by internal noise, self-doubt, mood swings, impulse, comfort addiction. Carl Jung once said that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. That's autopilot. You say, because this is just how I am. No, it's how you've trained yourself to be. Jack didn't become successful because he felt confident. He became successful because he removed negotiation from his life. That's the core lesson. You are not lacking information. You are lacking standards. Standards that do not bend when you're tired. Standards that do not shrink when you're uncomfortable. Standards that do not disappear when nobody is watching. When Jack first started, discipline was painful. When he hit month 3, it was structured. By year 2, it was identity, and by year 5, it was invisible. He didn't wake up and think, I'm being disciplined. He simply acted. That is the evolution. At the beginning, you fight yourself. Then you manage yourself. Eventually, you command yourself. Most people never reach that third stage because they quit during the emotional resistance phase. They interpret discomfort as failure. But discomfort is a signal of growth. The samurai understood something modern society forgot. You don't build strength by chasing pleasure. You build it by facing resistance voluntarily. That doesn't mean suffering for the sake of suffering. It means choosing the harder right over the easier wrong. Every morning, every decision, every small action. Let's be clear, this is not about becoming extreme, it's about becoming reliable. Reliable to yourself. If you say you'll wake up at 5:30, you do it. If you say you'll train, you train. If you say you'll study, you study. You remove the debate. Debate is where weakness enters. James Clear writes that you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Jack didn't chase a promotion. He followed a system. He didn't chase confidence. He practiced discipline. Confidence became a byproduct. That's another truth people misunderstand. You don't build confidence first. You build evidence. Evidence from small, repeated wins. Wake up, train, study, execute, repeat. Over time, your brain stops questioning whether you can, because you've proven it repeatedly. By year 10, Jack no longer needed reminders of discipline. He no longer needed external guidance. He had become stable, and stability creates peace. This is the final shift. Strength brings peace. Not excitement, not constant pleasure. Peace. Because when you are disciplined, you trust yourself. When difficulty comes, you don't panic. When setbacks appear, you adjust. When emotions spike, you remain steady. Peace is not the absence of chaos. It is composure inside chaos. That's what warriors were built for, and that's what you can build too. But here's the uncomfortable question. Are you actually willing to do what this requires? Not for 3 days, not for 2 weeks, for years. Are you willing to wake up without negotiation? To move without emotional permission? To train when you don't feel like it? To eliminate distractions even when everyone else indulges? To sit with discomfort instead of numbing it? to protect your focus in a world designed to steal it, to live without needing validation, to stay the course when progress slows? Because if you aren't, nothing changes. You can watch content like this. You can feel inspired for an hour. You can comment about how powerful it was, and tomorrow you can hit snooze, or you can decide that comfort is no longer your master. Jack was not special. He was average, until he stopped negotiating, and that's the difference. Most people are not limited by intelligence. They are limited by softness. Discipline removes softness, strength replaces it, and strength compounds. The system is simple. Stand up without negotiation. Move without emotion. Train when you don't want to. Eliminate what weakens you. Sit with pain. Guard your focus. Stop seeking approval. Stay the course. Applied daily, these principles change identity. Identity changes behavior. Behavior changes outcomes. You don't need a dramatic turning point. You need one decision. To stop arguing with what needs to be done. Strength is not loud. It is repetitive. It is structured. It is earned quietly. The warrior's path is not glamorous, but it works. So the final question isn't whether discipline works. It's whether you're tired enough of weakness to commit to it. Because the battle isn't out there. It's the one you fight tomorrow morning when the alarm rings. And that battle decides everything.